So I think just being honest and not just taking on clients just because they're a business too, and you don't want to you don't want to just you don't want to feel bad about taking somebody's money when you know that, oh, I might not be able to get them results, but it's a quick buck and it doesn't
Yeah.
lead. I think I just believe in karma too. I feel like if you do the right thing, sometimes
Yeah.
good things happen.
Oh, right. We've got another juicy video. We're really not slowing down here. We've got another student interview. Now, today I'm interviewing Mike. Mike's story is a very, very interesting one. Now, when he started with me, he hadn't even started his ecom agency. He knew that he wanted to start in the ecom space, but he was previously in a lead generation agency as a partner in there. And before that, he was actually working a 9-to-5 job. We talk about the different stages that he's gone through in his personal life. We talk about how he went from literally zero with his agency to, after having taken my mentorship, scaling to the 17K per month mark. And we also talk about how he's now launching his own D2C brand, his own e-commerce brand. And that is the power of an e-commerce marketing agency. And one of the things that I preach about in the channel a lot, the fact that, look, once you've worked with other ecom agency founders, right? You don't have to do this, but you have the possibility, you have all the tools in the arsenal once you've done that, once you've been through that process to now start your own ecom brand. And there's so much bliss and beauty in that. So we also dive deep into that. And the final thing we talk about is the day-to-day operations of an ecom apparel brand that he's a partner in right now and how they blew up on TikTok. So very excited for this interview. We cover a lot of incredibly juicy topics. So without further ado, I'll let you see that through your own eyes and let's get right into it. Yeah, man, walk me through like how the Unfinished Legacy whole thing just blew up.
Yeah, so pretty much aside from the agency stuff, I work with my friend Brema, who's pretty much the founder of Unfinished Legacy. So you can kind of see the painting in the back. But he was posted. So I met him maybe like 2 years ago, or yeah, like 2 years ago, just on really casual basis. This is before I was still working my regular job, my office job, and we just kind of hit it off through photography. And then he told me about his clothing brand and how he's trying to make it launch and stuff like that. And then like last year, March around sometime, like a TikTok video blew up for like, I don't know, he had like 1 million views on the video. And we set up like the Squarespace. We weren't really getting that many sales and stuff like that. But then I just started seeing like the notifications. I'm like, dude, what's going on? Like, why are there so many, why is there so many notifications for Squarespace right now? And he's like, yeah, it's like a video blew up on TikTok. So it's kind of been like, that's almost turned into another side business in a sense, for me at least. It's full time for him, but for me, it's just like wherever I can help usually is where I can help. And this is kind of the space. This is pretty much the clothing brand space, but I use it as my own workspace as well too.
So I mean, for those of you watching right now on YouTube, and by the way, like I don't like make it officially like we're starting. I just like to have I just have a very casual combo, as though like no one is even watching, right? But for those of you watching this, essentially, Mike, on top of having your ecom agency, right? Ravine is Ravine or Ravine? I always get it.
Ravine, yeah.
Ravine, okay, Ravine Media. You have this this ecom brand that obviously you're working at. How so essentially and since then, since that like boom, since that initial boom, or since that video, like was it a predictable kind of like scale, or it was like in periods, like short spans, or how did it look?
It was probably like a good like 3 months of just like craziness, and then slow down again, and then craziness again. But I think now we're in the phase of trying to create more structure, create more processes, and just kind of take it slow and like actually start, because like you can't really predict a big boom sometimes. You never want to be the brand that blows up too quickly off just with no substance to really offer. So now trying to drive in more into the messaging of the brand and stuff like that, and then more like the way the clothes feel, so just having more meaning to the brand, and then balancing that with the agency has been not too hard, to be honest. Brema is the guy that is the founder, and he takes a lot of the load for the brand. So he does, I would say, sometimes he prints some of this stuff. So it's like just wherever I fit in sometimes to help out.
Does he print it all? Like, because I see more, because I follow him on IG as well.
He prints a a lot of it. He prints a lot of it. There's some things that
Yeah.
we get like out we just a local print shop here,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like some of the stuff with like multiple patterns on it and the
Yeah.
jeans, all the jeans he prints. But yeah, he does them himself.
And by the way, like I do want to dig into the ecom
Yeah.
just because it came up, before we talk about the agency side of things, if you guys want to skip to the agency, like do it. But
Yeah.
but the reason why I want to do that, man, is because like most people watching this, like they're thinking of, they're seeing the massive potential in the ecom agency, and obviously a
Mhm.
big chunk of that is understanding how ecom brands and how ecom like teams
Yeah.
function internally, right? And I think
Yeah.
like it's so cool to see that you're working with other, with other really big ecom brands, ecom players,
Mhm.
right? But then you're also working within an ecom brand that's taking off, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of those like processes that you guys have had to build with all the kind of chaos, right? That you've been experiencing, and quick growth as of late.
I would say the processes is it's still over. We're still building the processes. Again, it
Yeah.
was just last last month or last year. I mean, in March that it really blew up, and we all were friends too before anything happened. So it was a little. The
Mm.
processes are a little. I would say unofficially official,
Yeah.
but I think this year we actually like this. We got a lawyer, attorney, started doing trademarking. So everything, all the processes like content strategy. There's a team that works on that. A team of two that
Okay.
that works on that. Email marketing. Um, we're trying to see if we want to do some paid ads, but organic has been. We probably only
Agreed.
spent maybe 3K on ads before, and
Okay. Like
organic is
retargeting or just
retargeting,
cold?
mostly retargeting, and then some
Yeah.
like cold lookalikes. They did good, but it's just one of those things where it's like
Yeah.
I feel like for streetwear brands is a little different. It's like the messaging is different. It's like one of those things if
Yeah.
you know type of thing.
100%, man. I
Yeah.
always say this. I always say this to my mentees who are doing apparel and fashion as a sub niche. That like, if you go into that sub niche, which by the way, incredible sub niche, right? Just like any
Yeah.
other sub niche, right? But you have to really understand the founders and the whole brands, like brand identity, because that's everything, right? Like that's obviously the designs can be cool, but it's the perceived value of the brand, right? It's like the message. Like you guys have a very clear message, right? And so it's like you want to make sure that aesthetically aesthetically those brands are congruent to that messaging, but also like the copy and everything is just so congruent, right? Obviously that applies for other sub niches, but like are there any differences, because you're mainly in within your own agency, your health and wellness, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any like little subtle differences between like the marketing for those type of brands and the marketing
Yeah.
for Unfinished Legacy?
I feel like with with health and like wellness brands, you can be a little bit more direct with the benefits of, especially in the copy, the benefits of like taking this supplement or
Yeah.
taking this whatever product they offer, like mostly the actual physical benefits.
Mm.
Whereas with clothing, I feel like it's more of a your perceived value of what that is, the messaging, because it's like clothes are
Yeah.
cool, but most people like it's like if the clothes looks cool, but some people like the messaging behind it. So it's like more
Mm.
talking about maybe not talking about your brand directly, but like the meaning of like unfinished legacy, like
Right.
leaving a mark on this world, that like how are you following your passion and stuff like that. So more of those like that make you, I don't know, think a little deeper about yourself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not just the clothing. As whereas
Facts.
supplements is like, oh, are you trying to
Yeah.
lose weight? And then you think, yeah, I'm trying to
Right.
lose weight, but it's you can make it like cool in both ways. But yeah, definitely with supplements is more direct, talking about the actual supplement or
Yeah.
the wellness brand, and then with unfinished legacy, I think it's talking about the higher, the over the more just the meaning behind passion and
Mm.
unfinished legacy itself. So it's more to talk about just different like different topics around
Mm.
that space rather than Nike does the same thing. Like when
Yeah.
you see a Nike commercial, they never really talk about the benefits of their running shoes, that it does
Mm.
this, it does that.
They just talk about politics. They just talk about politics.
The athletes wearing them, like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah. For
famous
sure.
Jordan commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
When Spike Lee, American director, he said it must be the shoes, or
Mm.
it has to be the shoes. No, and then Jordan's like, no, it's me, type of thing. So it's like,
Yeah. 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 It's like you almost don't realize. It's like, yeah, you almost don't realize that they're advertising like a clothing brand until like you essentially make the connection, right? Or this type of lifestyle, this type of mindset is correlated to the people that dress in this type of way. Like I think I mean your tips are golden. So like I'd love, especially for people in the apparel and fashion niche, right? So I'd love to hear a bit more. Like what are some of those ads, like messaging that has seemed to really work well?
I think so. I think the big thing that Brahma tries to put out there is just following your passion and being passionate about what you do, no matter what it is. So he's passionate about screen printing. I'm passionate about building businesses. We have other guys on the team that are passionate about like creating the visuals, and then so it was just a team of like passionate individuals and trying to show our passions to other people. So it's not even about the clothing; it's just about going out there and following your passion. So that's the main thing. It's like making people feel like they can pretty much follow their dreams and do the stuff they love. Whether it's like that's why I always see people on TikTok or Facebook or wherever, Instagram, saying, "Oh, escape the 9 to 5, this and that." But truly, if you work an office job and you really love that job and that's you're passionate about it, then do that. But if you're not passionate about, if you're at something where you're not really passionate about, you're doing things you don't really love, start something different on the side, do what you got to do to make your money, and then follow your passion, because at the end of the day you're going to be much happier than whatever money you make.
That's so facts. And final question on the brand before we move onto all the stuff that you're doing, right? I think the last question to me is like, you mentioned this, that you're at the end of the year, you're a bunch of friends, right? Working on this brand. What's that relationship like, right? Mixing friends, because I feel like a lot of people, when they start an agency, right, and typically this is their first business, right? They're like, oh, I'm gonna pick my best friend and we're gonna do this, right? So what has been maybe your experience as well previously, if you had any, or your experience right now with working with friends and building businesses with friends? And is there any like I don't know, special thing towards with that dynamic?
This is actually some conversations we've actually been having like internally about being friends in business and stuff like that. And I think with us is just being clear on, because obviously Brahma is the head of it, but it's being clear with the messaging, like, hey, we're friends before business. If we ever feel like this isn't working out for any of us, we'd rather cut ties and right away and just like go do our separate things than and just keep trying to make it work just because we're friends. And then that relationship and your friendship kind of. So I think if you are going to business with like your friends, having that clear conversation, especially if like one person's carrying more of the load than the other, having that clear conversation that hey, this is what I expect out of you. I'm gonna treat you like any other person, like a business, like you're an employee, well, not even an employee, but just like somebody that's working for me, and I have expectations for you. If I ever feel like that's not working out, I think it's just best, we had that clear messaging. But I think especially for the clothing brand, I think it's just more fun. It's a little bit easier. With the agency side of things, I would say it's a little more, especially when most people come into it 50-50. So it's like one person might be pulling more weight than the other, and then they're getting the same 50-50 kind of percentage and stuff like that. And that's where I was kind of in at the beginning of my agency, where I was doing everything, 50-50. I wouldn't say like one of us was pulling more weight, but it was one of those things where I felt like, oh, I can kind of do most of this myself. I don't think it's a two-person job. And, it's not about the money and stuff. Like, it's like, okay, this client's paying me $5,000 and the work is not, not crazy. I can get a VA to kind of do this, or a media buyer to kind of, orchestrate this around my plan and, have more profit for the business.
Yeah, that's such a good point and such a great leeway. To my next, to the next question that I wanted to ask it, which is, when I first met you, right? You were one in, three, right? You guys, three people running an agency, right? And it was mostly content creation, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was content creation and some ads. Yeah, okay, it was just kind of like everything, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the conversations that we had, and I gave you my as always my most honest and raw advice was the fact that you should just branch out on your own, because you had definitely the potential, the work ethic, and the right guidance to do so, right? Before we talk about like Ravine Media and that, what were some of the downfalls of running this 3-person agency, and especially on the content creation side of things? Like, did you see it not as scalable as paid ads, or like what's kind of your perception of that type of agency, or maybe an agency that offers way too many services? Like, what things did you guys struggle with?
So I think especially we did offer everything. It was paid ads, social media management. I would say just the more difficult part is just like the communication aspect of it. There was no like it's really laid back. Like, hey, there was no like formal like meetings, like team meetings and stuff like that to talk about what we want to do to grow. And it's just like, it wasn't like, it was just too casual for me. It was it was one of those things where I felt like there was no real direction. And then when we offered so many services, it was just like, it was hard to kind of narrow down into the people coming in and start pricing things one way and trying to add this on. And even the content side of it, it's honestly kind of hard to keep up with, because we're doing all the service delivery ourselves too. So it's kind of like, I really didn't like this messaging, or they don't like the messaging I was using. So it wasn't like, we never really met about what our messaging was going to be. And also we weren't really like niched down. It was kind of like a little bit of everything. It was just pretty much, there's no specialization in it. It's hard to kind of, especially for client acquisition, to kind of see like, what do you guys actually do, and what niches you service and stuff like that. So it was just a couple of those things that kind of led to me wanting to. And then another thing was, I want to go more into the econ space, just because with lead generation, even though we'll get into this later, I'm still doing some lead generation, but a little different way. But with lead generation, it's like, it's so much in the process. So we did stuff for solar and real estate sometimes. And if their sales cycle is not clean, no matter what leads you bring them, sometimes they might not be able to handle the amount of leads, and they're not calling the leads. It then leads to looking bad on your services, saying,
tell him,
hey, these leads are bad. But it's like, okay, they called the lead one time, or they didn't call them at all, or they're just bad salespeople, So with ecom is one of those things where you're driving it's still like a sales cycle, still has to be good, but it's less like, I would say, human effort, or like, it's like you're relying on the landing page being good. And those are stuff that you can still help with, directly, getting the landing page nice, making sure the funnel is clean and seamless. There's no distractions on the, different pages, stuff like that. But with that, it's just so much seamless for me. And obviously there's a clear way to kind of say, I made you this much money. Whereas the lead generation, most of the time, you won't even know if they closed the client. Usually if you don't hear anything from them, that means things are going good. And then if you hear something from them, that means, hey, we're not really closing. So you never know like how much, like, because they'll do their own sales cycle, and they have leads coming from different places too. So it's like, they don't really know. There's no real clear process of saying, hey, we did X amount of deals this month. It was just, that type of stuff is kind of hard to track.
You just have less control over everything, right? And when you have less control, obviously it's not as predictable, but it's also not as sustainable, because, like, as you said, if the client just wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, or they're just not, their team is not able to close these leads because they suck, because their team sucks, not your leads suck, right? And then they'll blame it on you, essentially, right? It's a very easy way out for them. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's people killing it in the lead generation space, and they have their systems and processes. So to help people with, setting appointments, I still have some of those processes now myself, where, kind of holding hands a little bit more. But I think that then it comes to just partnering with the right people, and not just taking anybody on.
And I think, I mean, I agree with that, right? But then it's like also taking some of the concepts from running ads from ecom, which is like gain as much control as possible and like have like a real partnership, right? If that's the case and you bring that into lead gen, I think like that could really work, because that's what you've done with solar panels, right? Like you have equity. Like if you want to tell them like how you've structured that lead gen client, like I think it's very interesting.
When I was actually doing mentorship and stuff like that, wanted to move into ecom. I was like, yes, I'm finally going to get away from this. And then
Mm.
more solar clients popped out of nowhere. So it really pretty much happened when, so one of my clients actually work at the same gym. So
Okay.
we are turned clients into like actual friends. So
Yeah.
so he actually owned his own solar company, and I did lead generation from them. And then he started doing consulting for other solar companies. So then I just kind of brought me in kind of to just help with like one-off projects and stuff like that. So that
Mm.
turned into us doing a really good job for our solar company in Chicago area to them wanting to franchise another one in actually the state I live in, which is Wisconsin. Um, so now I get, help with the franchising. So now I can kind of control like a whole marketing budget in a sense. And then I also
Mm.
get like a percentage of whatever they make as a company. So this is
Mm.
super passive. Even the marketing budget, I don't do any of the, I don't do any of the ads. I kind of hire a team,
Nice.
and it's somebody I trust, somebody that does a really good job, and they have the processes they kind of build. It's almost like I kind of hired another agency in a sense
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
take on to take on it.
Okay. Okay. I see.
So yeah, it's been going great. And then I just been helping them with some of the branding type of stuff of the company too. So it's in the solar industry, I don't think the branding is too hard.
Mm.
It's pretty simple. Everybody kind of says the same thing, but just trying to find different ways where, I do photography stuff too. So maybe
Yeah.
helping them with maybe some of the visuals, um, hiring people to do drone stuff when they put the panels on the roof and stuff like that. But
Mm.
yeah, doing that. And I think we want to open another one in like California and just kind of keep building off of that and just kind of having this ecosystem of just purely passive. I would say I spend maybe 2 hours a week on this solar. I mean, it brings me a good amount of money and just from doing
Good
doing
stuff,
that.
man.
So, yeah.
Diversification at its finest. So you're kind of like operating like as the marketing director or a
Yeah, I
CMO
would say like
of
a outsource. I would pretty much call myself like an outsource.
outsource. Good stuff. Cool. Shifting to Refine Media, right? And I mean, later on, I want to talk about how you manage all these things, like more on the lifestyle side of things and how you balance your time, all that stuff. But moving on to the agency side of things, when you first made that transition, right? You picked, I mean, for people watching, right? You picked health and wellness, correct? Out of curiosity, because I don't have this, top of mind, but how long did it take you to sign that first line? Because you were talking to some big players. I remember you were telling me like, dude, I landed a call with this client. And I was like, oh shit, like I use their product,
I think 1 week after, maybe 2 weeks after our mentorship finished. So our mentorship is a 4-week mentorship, and then I would say 2 weeks after that, I signed my first client, and I did have those meetings with those bigger companies, and I learned a lot from those meetings. I didn't sign those companies, but I did learn a lot from just having those like higher level conversations and just being more confident. Because I watched back the footage, and I'm like, all right, I could have said this a little different, or I could have just. I think my main thing was just being more confident. And anybody that's in the agency space is like, if you sound like you know what you're talking about, and just like actually do some research on the company.
Yeah. And actually prep for the call and all that stuff.
For the call, don't think you're just gonna like say anything. Another thing I did that worked, like how I signed my first client was, I did a little snooping on their own personal life and seeing the things you liked, and I was like, oh, we kind of have a common interest, and just kind of like casually bring it up it just kind of builds better rapport when you're on the call, and it's really
100%.
it makes it way more laid back than just trying to sound like super busy. And I feel like trying to make the sales call not sound too salesy and just like more of a conversation, and just so yeah, it took me 2 weeks to sign my first client after our mentorship.
There's a lot of golden nuggets there, man. Because I mean, I'm a massive big preacher of the importance of preparing that call, like with a very clear structure, right? And I even tell my mentees, like, you should even get stockish, like to a point where like, like you should know, number one, if you're speaking to a founder, like you should know 100% the founder's story, like where they've worked in the past, like some of the people they're liking or following on LinkedIn, like some things that they generally show an interest in. And if you're speaking to the CMO, you should also know what the founder story is like, because then that, that usually impacts the brand, but also the CMO, like you're gonna know them on a very personal level, because then you've got a leg up, like people love talking about themselves. And also like a lot of people feel like it's stalkish to do so, but honestly, even if it does sound kind of like creepy, right? At least it shows them that you've done your homework. Like this person is very prepared.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing they like to see, at least initially, before you even get to like the meat and potatoes of what you're actually going to talk about.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest lessons? Because you said you learned a lot. What are some of the biggest lessons, apart from obviously, gaining that confidence, which is really important. That's why it's really important to also lock in a lot of calls, right? But what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from talking to these people?
The biggest lesson is just having pretty much a structure of how you do things and being able to explain how you actually would get them, be better than what they have, So, or what they're currently doing. I mean, so sometimes, going into like the first sales call, sometimes you don't really have that structure of like, all right, this is kind of how we've been setting up campaigns. This is kind of like the buyer's journey. We'll take them through yada, yada, yada. I think not having that structure at first was a little bit hard for me. Obviously there's the script and stuff like that, but I think actually knowing what that structure actually, not just reading off like the stuff that you like provide for the mentees and stuff like that, like diving deep into it and being like, all right, this is how this works, and leads to this leads to that, and just knowing that process and knowing the structure, because especially when you talk to the big companies, if you just tell them, hey, we'll increase your conversions, it'll make you X amount of dollars at the end of the year, and you don't have anything to explain how you're going to do that or the process of how you're going to do that, then they're just like, all right, I've heard that a million times.
Exactly. So it's having a very clear approach through results, where, they at least, it doesn't have to be like exactly, have like a plan of attack, right? But like right there and then, but like at least have a common structure that you follow to get them that specific result, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Has that like iterated over time? As I'm guessing it has, right? Like you've iterated that process over time as you've had those experiences with Health of One of those clients.
Yeah, the process is it changes from client to client. So even though I'm like health and wellness, I kind of like shifted a little bit more just because I have a couple testimonials I can send out and stuff like that, more to like general direct to consumer brands. And you'll probably see in a couple of weeks, I'm trying to do more direct to consumer, just because, especially now I'm in the e-com space myself with direct to consumer apparel stuff. I think leveraging my experience with that helps a lot too. Just kind of more general direct to consumer.
Which makes a lot of sense, by the way, because and I mentioned this, right? Like once you've used that advantage, then you can broaden up into the e-com space, because now you have the testimonials. Like you're, a great example, right? You have the testimonials, you have the experience, so now you've got a leg up, even if you're competing in a broader space, right? Yeah.
I think I forgot the general question you were asking I think it was about the structure changing. But
the structure.
Yes, the structure has changed a little bit. Just in sense of what we've been seeing working and what's not been working. Nothing too specific, but nothing too like drastic either. What we've been doing, our ads have been pretty profitable. I think it comes down to just, we're going to hit this too, but just the communication with the clients and having like clear expectations. I try to under promise and over deliver every time. So it's always that, and you teach that in the mentorship, and so that's been helping too a lot. Just that structure, not going in saying, oh, I can make you 6x what you're doing now, and 5x what you're doing now, and be a little bit more conservative, but still like sounds really profitable, and then just over delivering from that too.
In terms of the deals,
on my also just knowing my benchmarks of what I've been hitting, consistently. And just kind of going off those benchmarks and saying, okay, for sure know I can do this.
In terms of like the deals, right? How are you structuring those nowadays mostly? Is it fixed mostly, and then obviously performance-driven incentives with ad profit deals, or how are you mainly structuring that?
So I do fixed with, with some companies, I do just overall revenue, just the way the deal is structured. Some of them are just beginning, or not just beginning, but kind of newer, not making as much, but I know they have a really good product, they're just not marketing it right. So I'll do more of a rev share in general, but I make sure the rev share makes sense. So we dive in, when we go in that, we kind of have a separate meeting, kind of go into their cost of goods, their margins. So I don't want, because again, I don't want to eat into their margins. But most of my deals are just profits. So I take a percentage from the profits they make. So fixed plus profit.
Going forward, right, with the agency, like what are some of the things you're looking at? Because have you done any equity agreements with ecom brands? Because that's kind of the next iteration that I talk about we talk about in the mentorship.
Yeah, no equity deals yet, but just like you are doing, I'm in the process of trying to like make my own direct to consumer product. Not even in the apparel niche at all, but just more of a direct to consumer product that people can use every day and stuff like that. So we can have that. That's to be. I think when you work with like companies that are doing really good, and you run the ads and like, oh, they could probably brand this a little bit better, but I don't really have a say in some of the branding ideas they have, depending how big they are sometimes too. But just like, okay, I feel like I can do something similar to this, but a lot better. I have the team for it. I have people, even just on the clothing side, brand of things. Like everybody does content here, so it's like it's like a content house. So we have everybody can take pictures, everybody can do videos. So we have ways of just like branding it really good. So for me, getting into that space myself is something that I'm going to start doing myself. And then I feel like once I get that established more too, and with the clothing brand, we get it more established, it's easier for me to kind of go in and do more equity. I have done some like one-off consultations too. Sometimes there will be a client, and some of them really appreciate you saying this too. Like they're not making much a month.
Yeah.
They're not really running ads, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, all right, I'll be honest with you. You probably can't afford my services right now, but what I can offer you is it's a one-time consultation, telling you how to do this and that, and pretty much just structure it that way. And that's actually been working with like clients that either might have been like, they don't want to pay, even they might still be making a decent amount of money from ads and stuff like that, but they might not want to do a whole agency. So I sometimes offer just a one-off consultation if I feel like that's where the call. And one client actually, I guess they are a client because they did do consultation. So one of them said, hey, I really appreciate you actually saying that, because I got off a call with another agency and they were like $1,500 a month, $2,000, $5,000 a month, and you were just being honest with me and saying that, hey, there's some things you might want to work on before you even think about running ads. So I think just being honest and not just taking on clients just because they're a business too, and you don't want to feel bad about taking somebody's money when you know that, oh, I might not be able to get them results, but it's a quick buck and it doesn't lead. I believe in karma too. Like I feel like if you do the right thing, sometimes good things happen.
Dude, that's putting a big smile on my face, because it's everything you like to see. It's everything I like to see personally, right? The fact that again, like this is such a thing. It's one thing that I feel like if agency owners just implemented this a bit more, they would have so much more success, right? And it's having that brutal honesty where you actually have the benefit of the client in mind, and they think, well, I'm not going to make as much money. Well, maybe you don't take on that client that actually ends up pissing you off, because like clearly they're not happy because you shouldn't have signed them in the first place. Now you're also stressed out, and this client's going to leave you in like 1-2 months. Instead, you're brutally honest. It makes signing that client super easy, and not easy, right? But they appreciate the brutal honesty so much, right? As you said, like because they're used to agency owners, right? Charging them like a fix, right? Not even thinking about their situation, their scenario, not even having empathy for that. And then when you hit them with that brutal honesty, it's just so effective.
Yeah, and I think another thing that helps too, like even if you feel like you're not going to win the client on the call, try to add value, because this has happened to me. I've like said, all right, let me give you a process that's actually been working. Like they said, oh, this is not a good time for me right now. Like, all right, let me just show you what's been working for me with this X to X client, and kind of show you what we've been doing to make them profitable. And then you just give that free, like, you should try to change this and maybe do this, and just giving them that actual advice, and not just trying to sell them, just giving them advice of how they should move forward. I've had somebody come back to me like 3 months down the line and say, hey, Mike, we're in a position where we want to take an agency on now. Let's have a talk again. So it's like, I think even if you feel like if it's going your way, try to just give advice, add value, and say, like, they say they don't hear anything back from them and say, hey, we're not going to move on with you. Just email them back, say, okay, that's fine. Shoot a quick Loom video or type something about, like, this is what's been working, yada, yada, yada. Maybe we can talk down the line in 2 to 3 months, talk down the line in 6 months, whatever. Don't ever leave I don't like leaving conversations with just like, all right, they're gone and never happen again. But it doesn't really cost anything for you to just, give them a little advice of what's been working for you.
It's that subtle flex approach, right? It's like, I feel like, and you're so spot on about this, and I think like so many agency owners, right? They just ask questions on those calls. They just ask questions, right? And it's like the very salesy questions, right? Where like clearly the client knows what you're doing, like, there's no way around it. And also you get to the end of the call and you haven't added any value. So how does the client know like how good you are, right? And if you haven't added value, like, then you're clearly not in abundance, or you're not in a position where like, to give that type of information. So your service is probably going to be, you're going to have that scarcity mindset, right? That most people are not attracted to. So what are some of the things, like, just, very quickly, like what are some of the things that when it comes to giving value, right, you like to dive into? Is it like past results for clients? Is it like a specific, maybe like a campaign as of late that has been working tremendously well, some of the creatives, like, or does it just alternate?
I think the easier thing is to, especially if you don't have like any past clients or results to kind of go off, I'll just go off just like the creatives and saying, hey, this is kind of how I would write this creative, and this is kind of how I target. Are you guys currently doing this right now? Just give examples, like get creative right there. You can take their own ad copy and just say, hey, this is how I kind of structure it, because maybe it's a little too wordy. If they're using too many long form or too many short form copies, say, hey, variations, testing variations, stuff like that. But I think just getting creative, especially if you don't have any past results, it's always easier to just go based on what you've done for other clients. But a lot of people probably watching your page are people that want to, like, just beginning or want to start. So I would just say, use just the creatives, get creative, see what they're running, go see what the competitors are running. Like if it's I have a mattress, a bed in a box brand that I work with, right? So what I did, and I never worked with a bed in a box brand before. So I went to a bigger one like Casper or those big Purple mattress, how they're running their ads and stuff like that.
Purple has incredible. I mean, these guys have incredible creatives, man.
They are good.
Incredible videos. Yeah.
We're probably gonna get a Purple ad after just saying them. But pretty much like going to like the bigger competitors and just kind of like trying to blend what they're doing into what they are actually doing. Just blend that together and just create. Say you don't have to create the video, but more like the standalone copy, the static copy, and just kind of create it from there and just help them with that. And when you show like your creative side, especially with, I think a lot of ads, if your creative is really good, sometimes the targeting, the targeting might not even matter as much sometimes. It's just like, if it's something that, if you can use maybe like humor, charm, or something like that, I think that wins over. I think making it as casual, especially the conversation, just making it as casual as possible. And yeah, that's pretty much what I would do.
Yeah, get creative with when signing clients. It's not just about like forcing it down their throat, like, let's jump on a call and let me see if you're a good fit, right? No, like, actually add free value to them and get creative. It doesn't have to, and here's the thing, a lot of people might hear that and think, well, I don't have the enough knowledge, or I'm not experienced enough. No, you can literally get creative with the smallest of things, and as long as you know a bit more than them, which you probably do, because this is the one thing you focus on, like, they're going to be impressed. You're going to cut through the noise, right? I think that's a really good leeway into like what you're trying to do with your D2C brand, right? Because you've learned quite a lot. And I think it's like the perfect example, because I preach this all the time, right? Like if you build an e-com agency, then you have you have the power to then go ahead and build your own brands and do it from a place where you're much more experienced. Bringing that experience that you've garnered with your agency, what are some of the things that you see you think of your D2C brand and you're like, I want to do this, right? Like there's no way in hell that I'm not doing this because I've seen so many brands just do it so poorly.
You talk about in terms of just like where I want the brand to go or monetary.
No, not monetary. Like mostly, if you want to dive into that, sure, right? But also like on the marketing side of things, it could be like I want to build a community, right? Because you guys have done that really well. Or I want to go content fast, like you've done with Unfinished Legacy. Like, what are some of the things that you're thinking of?
For sure, I would want to go content heavy, and a lot of things I've been doing, even in like my email outreach, is just using more like charm and like, not being overly serious with just being super casual, making people feel like, they're not being sold to. So like Purple does it really good and all these other brands do a good job of it. But I think trying to create the ads that don't look like an ad pretty much and just make it super casual, add some funny stuff in there and make it like visually like pleasing. Like I want it to be looked at as like art when they're seeing it. It's like, oh wow, this is a big production that's going on. Even though it probably just be me and my friends with a camera, but everybody's so passionate about what they do. It's gonna resonate and something that resonates with everybody, where it doesn't feel like there's anybody that's not included in, they can't be part of what I'm trying to do.
Would you say there's no value in like targeting a specific audience or like kind of like saying like we're these type of people and kind of like polarizing the other audiences?
For certain brands, like for the clothing brand, we target a specific type of people, passionate individuals. But like for like a D2C brand that I would want to make, I would honestly target super broad. I would want people to actually just, feel like maybe I wasn't thinking about this before, but now that I saw this ad, I kind of want to know more about this. So it's just like I was just compared to like a Netflix show. Like you see you're browsing through Netflix and something comes up and recommended, and I've never had any interest in the show. I just click on it. I watched a show that I never thought would be interested. People probably laugh, but it's called Emily in Paris. I never thought
I watched one episode. It is addictive.
Yeah,
it's addictive. I was like, I should not be. Why am I interested in this? My parents were watching, and I was like, let me just sit here for 10 minutes and see what this whole thing is about. I was like, when are we watching the next episode? It's addictive.
Sure. So it's like not even like I would never think about it. It's just like if it's already put in my face and the branding is good, the marketing is good, the messaging it probably resonates, and then having something once they get there that makes them want to stay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I'd want to do with owning my own brand. That's something I definitely want to do, making people come back for more. Something that's that they can come back every month for, whether it's like maybe I start my own like protein brand or water bottles or anything, right.
So you don't have an idea as to what the product or
I have a little idea. I'm just like in the building stages of it right now. I'm just trying to get it. I haven't even done sampling, so just make sure like I know, you probably ran into this when you're trying to sample stuff and just making sure you're super specific with what you want. So there's no, because when you're not specific, it takes a lot more time. So just trying to build that out and just talking to people that I know they're running. There's a couple of people I know they're running, especially kind of in the same industry probably that I'm looking into. They're doing $10 million a year, and he's just giving me some advice on how to go about it and what his team structure is. And he's about to actually exit from his company. So it's like what he did to get to that point. So it's just like, I think it's just right now, it's just like garnering that information and just going from there.
Love to see that, man. Love to see that, because again, another benefit, right, of building the Ecom agency for us, the relationships, the friendships, the mentors, right, that you can get just from like, budding with other founders and Ecom owners, right?
I would say like for people that like, if you are one of those dudes that are more extrovert, introvert, if you hang around people, just make sure like the people I hang around, like they inspire me to do better, to do different things, even though we're not even in the same industry sometimes, like, or even doing the same thing, like they're not even doing marketing at all. But what they show their passion, especially the people I work with in when we come to this office space, it's like everybody's just, passionate about what they're doing, and that just inspires you to go, all right, let me get my work, let me get this done. So And sometimes you're just like a person that's like a loner or likes to be more introvert, and you find passions in other ways. That's fine too. It's just make sure like do something that you're passionate about, and or do something that maybe will fulfill your passions. Like I think we can probably be a good leeway into like the lifestyle things. It's like
Exactly what
um,
I was gonna lead into
yeah.
there.
So with the agencies, like my agency is more of I feel like a vehicle um, to kind of support my lifestyle. Just like main thing is just time. When I was working at the office job, there was nothing really wrong with it. It just wasn't really.
What of a job before the
She had a
agencies?
marketing company.
Okay. So marketing company, then the 3-person agency, and then that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what. That's so. When I was at the bigger marketing company, it just the stuff I was doing wasn't just it was easy. It wasn't really
Yeah.
for me. It was I went to work, I came back. I wasn't really motivated to get stuff done. But I feel like when you throw yourself into, and actually the funny part about that job, I kind of worked myself out of a job. So there was two positions of that, and me and another person, we literally put like, hey, your position is terminated out of nowhere. And that was scary at that moment because I'm like, wow, that's like my income I was wearing, I knew what I was making every month. And I built
Yeah.
my lifestyle up to a point where I'm like, all right, I make more money so I can live this type of lifestyle. And then just having that taken from you right away, it was kind of a scary thing. But the thing about it, when they say like pressure makes diamonds and stuff like that, and it's been like that all my life in sports and everything else. Just like when you're back against the wall, sometimes it's like if you just think optimistically, and I've done my best work sometimes with my back against the wall. So it's like I've always been prepared for stuff like that. So and the funny thing is I've always been working on my agency and all the other stuff while I was at the job because I would get done so early and I'll just go on YouTube, start watching different stuff about agency, photography,
Yeah.
and I learned that way. So it's like I was able to learn about what I wanted to do already while at the job I wasn't really passionate about. So
Yeah. I think that's such a great piece of advice for people that have a thing right now, like they have a full-time job, right? You can start like you did, right? You can start the agency as a side hustle or as a side thing first, right?
yeah.
Would you say like how would you structure, how would you give people, how would you tell people to structure their day when it comes to like balancing both?
Yeah, it also depends on the premise of your job, but honestly, if you spend a good hour a day just focusing on what you kind of want to build and just keeping those building blocks, and maybe your weekends are the perfect time. If you don't work weekends, take 2 hours a day. It's just like just keep doing those building blocks. I think setting your goals and saying, okay, I want to be at this point in a year. Let me go through the week. If you do like to me 8 hours, 5 hours a week of studying like how to build your agency and stuff like that, and see like progress, like just keeping like honest feedback with yourself, like how much do I really know now with just 8 hours a week? And if you feel like I'm learning, I'm progressing, just keep that steady flow and just like, all right, start saving money, start maybe doing things on the side to kind of hustle some money. But like even me, I started with in college. Actually, I was building Instagram pages. I built the Instagram 3 Instagram pages. One of them had like 2 million followers. Another one had like 900. So I was always into social media. So that's kind of what I wanted to do, like social media agency, even though it's not really what I kind of do now. I still do like content for some people, but yeah, I was just building Instagram pages and I was doing that on the side while I was in college and was making good money. That's when like Instagram was like still new. So it's like I was charging like 100, it was an art page and I was charging like $150 per post sometimes. So I was making a good decent amount of chunk of change. I ended up selling the page to some type of politician. And
Okay.
but yeah, besides the point, it's just like doing things on the side and just kind of structuring yourself and just being honest with yourself. Like after 1 month of doing this, did I really learn anything? Do I feel like I'm better equipped? If you don't feel like that, then you might have to just up it. It's gonna take at the end of the day, it's gonna take some type of sacrifice. It's gonna take doing things you might not want to do at the time. It's gonna take not going out, staying in and studying sometimes. But if you're in a position where you have a lot more free time, I say, hey, use that free time to kind of learn what you want, your passion, or get better at your passion, or how to monetize your passion.
Yeah.
I find that way. And
Yeah.
I think in the age of social media, if you have something like even TikTok now, if you're passionate about something, you can build an audience on there. And it doesn't even have to be marketing. It can be, if you like to make woodwork and there's people
Yeah.
that do woodwork, and you start selling your woodwork items, and you can start from there. So anything you want to do, whether it's marketing, just find a way, structure, set some time apart from your everyday life, and just
Mhm.
work on it, and just have honest feedback with yourself.
I think 100%. I think the key is to do. It's just to do, right? And then that's that. Doing is a good vehicle to then finding what you're passionate about. I think, as you said, like learning what you're passionate about. Like, I don't think people should go into something saying, "Oh, this is 100% my passion," because then they're expecting a lot from it, right? I think like doing stuff is then a vehicle to finding what you're truly passionate about in that specific space. Like, for example, I'm sure there's things for you, right, that you don't really like about the ecom agency model, right? But then you find things that you're really passionate about. Maybe, I don't know, it's the fact that you're budding with this ecom owners and founders, right? And then that enables you, or working with big brands, and that enables you to start your own brands later down the line. I think it's like just doing a lot, right? And then using that as the vehicle to find the things that you're truly passionate about, and double down on things that you've now found to be your passion.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's pretty much the agency has been doing for me. So aside from some agency in the clothing, right, I like doing photography. I
Mm-hmm.
have I like doing film photography. I like working out. I started boxing, kickboxing. I do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So it's like do a lot of things outside of
Yeah.
just like the regular agency. And I don't think I'm comfortable where I'm at right now, but I'm like, I still want to build on something. But for me, if building means, sometimes taking more time away from things like my lifestyle, then I'm okay just like growing a little slower. Because I feel like even growing slow for me, it kind of builds like that process for me, and just makes it like, all right, this is not just a lucky thing that happened one month, and
Mm-hmm.
I can do it again this month. I can do it again this month, and just keep chipping away at that block.
I love that, man. Dude, I would keep this going for hours, man. But I don't want to stretch this out too long. But I think the final question that I want to ask, and you kind of touch on it, but you're doing a lot of stuff, right? And you seem to be just fine, right? You don't seem to be too overwhelmed. And I love what you just said, right? That doing a lot of stuff that is outside of the business realm keeps you grounded, and keeps you focused on the journey, and not so much on the next milestone, and growing too quick, right? It makes it more sustainable, essentially. What's like one piece of advice for people struggling to find that balance, or struggling to find the time to do those things? Like, what are some of the time management advice that you'd have for them?
Even me, I would be honest, I'm still focusing on, I'm still trying to get the time management of things
Mm.
down packed, is like doing all this stuff. And then I have a girlfriend too. So it's like, you have to, and a dog. So it's like,
Okay.
so my
The
time is,
dog is the dog is cute, man. I sit on stories. Yeah.
but I would say like advice is just kind of like prioritizing things, and just like scheduling things out, putting things on the calendar. And once you kind of look at things on the structure of a calendar, you kind of feel like, all right, if I do this in this time, if it doesn't look right to you at that point, then it's like, all right, let me start
Mm.
moving things around. So I think if you can find a way to kind of like visually put what you do in a day out, and just stick with that, I think that helps a lot with the structure. Because especially if you kind of structure it out the day before, the week before, you can visually see it. And I don't know, if you have common sense, you feel like, okay, I shouldn't be spending too much time on this. This is
Mm.
not, and just like like again, prioritizing, seeing like, does does this thing I'm doing, you know, add value to my overall goal, or my end, like where I want to get to, and just kind of just going from there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just always know it's always going to be a work in progress. Don't get down on yourself if you say, oh, I played too many video games and this week, like don't let that make, because I've done that. I've gone down a spiral of like, oh, I didn't eat the way I wanted to eat this week, and it just makes me, oh, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm just gonna start eating bad, continue eating bad. But it's like, just hit that reset button right there and then, and just start. In football, they call it like the next play mentality. So it's like, if I make a mistake this play, don't think about that last play. Just think about the next play and where you want to get to. So pretty much,
Mm.
yeah, I'm kind of rambling at this point, but that's pretty much what
Love
I'm
it,
trying.
brother. Love it. Love it. But yeah, I think that's a really good place to wrap it up. As I mentioned, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. All right, awesome, man. Then look, I appreciate your time. And yeah, we'll be definitely in touch.
For sure.
All right. Take care, man. Big hug. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.
All right. So that is that for the interview with Mike. Great guy, Mike. I would have spoken to him for a number of hours. I think there's so much to talk about there, not only on the business side of things, but just how he manages to stay on top of things and how he looks at the entrepreneurial journey. I think the reflection that he made about how doing all this stuff that is external to the business side of things, right, really keeps him sane as he grows very quickly, right, and really humbles him and makes him understand that this is a process and that you just have to keep chipping away at it. So a lot of juice in there. I really hope you took value out of that and his journey. If you did, drop a massive thumbs up. It helps out a ton with the algorithm and the whole channel. And look, this is not for everyone, but if you're looking to start an online business or you're looking to finally get results with your social media marketing agency, with your ecom agency, you're tired of banging out hundreds of cold emails, banging out hundreds of cold calls potentially, right, and having no one answer to them, you're finally looking to get results and blow past the 10K a month mark and get into my 10K club with a lot of the students that you've probably seen at this point, then go ahead and check out the link in the description. That is a link to apply to my mentorship. Again, this is not for everyone. In fact, we keep it very tight knit, which means we only select a few people for this every single month out of the hundreds of different applications that we get. But go ahead and check out the link in the description. Go ahead and apply, put in effort to those questions. And if you're a good fit, we'll get right into it and we'll get leveling your agency. And with that being said, hope everything's gone well in your agency and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.